Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Three Body Problem. This is episode 57, live from Las Vegas. Give it up. As you can hear, we have a live audience today of friends and family who've checked in who've left a million other black hat things to come and spend an hour with us. Grateful for it. Thank you very much. Juanito, how are you feeling?
Good, man. I mean, we made it out somehow. There's been a car accident in front of the building. There's all kinds of bullshit trying to get in our way, but the fam showed up, the food showed up, the microphone somehow worked.
It's incredible.
We spent 45 minutes fighting this fucking shore stand. And Brandon, of all, has actually made it into the recording, which looked a little unlikely there first.
Super excited to introduce Brandon Dixon. Brandon Dixon is an old veteran from our threat intelligence world. Brandon created PDF X-Ray, HyperTotal, Blockade.io, security jobs board Ninja Jobs. Yeah. PassiveTotal that got acquired by RiskIQ that got acquired by Microsoft, and he just left Microsoft to launch his own startup in the AI security world. So we thought we'd put aside an episode on just AI security and all the implications for all of it, all the black box coding that people are doing. So let's get right to it. Juanito, I'll start with you. Google Big Sleep. You've had some harsh words for them on the podcast previously.
I have not.
Heard them last time.
I did not have harsh words.
Very harsh words. Google responded by releasing an instant tracker.
Specifically to you. I think they called you out in that. If I got it.
But let me not start with Juanito. I'll start with Brandon.
Yeah, please.
What is Google Big Sleep?
Oh goodness.
Wait, that's not a fair. Like, none of us know what the fuck Google
That's
Big
why I'm
Sleep
asking.
really is.
I mean, I have feelings on what I think it is.
We go on vibes here.
Yeah, vibes are
Vibes
good.
enough.
I mean, the way that I look at Big Sleep is it's some sort of agentic system behind the scenes that is looking at open source models and trying to identify potential vulnerabilities that exist there by just fuzzing the code, looking for insecurities that occur across those projects, and then trying to create an action space in which the AI can run and make those things actually happen. So they deploy the projects, they probably put them in some sort of Dockerized container, and then they have like an AI system that runs in a continuous loop that exploits the nature of generative AI, which is be getting more and more creative in specific ways. That's what I think it is.
You're a believer in the hype.
Yeah, like I mean, I think it is overhyped, and so people that don't follow AI enough, like myself, or like they're making it part of their life, they look at it and they go, "This is bullshit. It's not going to take my job. Like, it can't even spell strawberry correctly," up until a couple weeks ago or whatever it was.
They figured it out.
I know
They cracked it.
We're getting there. But when you understand the architectures and you consider like security as a whole, there's a lot of stuff that I don't want to do in my job that I think the most analysts that I talk to, they don't want to do in their job. And it's just a matter of like getting exposure to the technology. It's not perfect. And I hate the trope of like, this is the worst it's ever going to be, but that is true and it's changing quite rapidly. So like I've been encouraged to see like more people in security starting to come up with single prompt solutions that make their life easier. Like summarize all this vulnerability intelligence. Like, I mean, even the topics here are summarized by like O3 Mini, right? Or O3.
Why are you letting
Don't fucking tell people
You're
how
not
we do
supposed to be
it.
architects while we do this shit.
We've been preparing for days.
Yeah, of course. That's what we all do. Like, this is how you scale, right? Yeah. You scale and you do things by using AI in creative ways. So I think you got to pick and choose the use cases, but I'm a huge believer.
I think it's interesting to kind of talk about that as an optional thing. I actually want to discuss this on different terms in that I think we got used to cybersecurity as a fun little project, as like a cool thing we bolted on. And if you think about it, especially being on the eaves of DEF CON, right? Like stunt hacking and all these like, look how we figured out a way to break into this like niche little thing you've never heard of that does this cool thing. In many ways, I think is sort of ode to our human limitations and the fact that this is it has been an intractable problem. It's like there's no part of cybersecurity. I mean, I'm probably going to get squashed out on this one, but like I don't think there's a part of cybersecurity that we can look at and be like, we've got this. Like we've got this so down that it's no longer a concern. Like we've kind of closed this one off and we're on to the next problem.
Yeah, we don't have enough time.
Well, we don't.
How many open source libraries are there?
So
Poll in the audience here. I don't know.
yeah, guys, anyone keeping count?
I mean, it's got to be crazy, right? And so, like,
and variations on each one, and someone's cute little fork on whatever. I think, look, to that point, and this is something that came up with Dave Eitel, Aardvark presentation, which we refer to all the time, and most people didn't get to see it because it was in private. But I'm giving Dave shit because I'm trying to get him. I'm like, come to LabsCon, come tell people. He's like, I'm too busy.
Dave is so cool.
Dave is just.
He still has the daily Dave list, and I love. Like, he's like one of the few people that posts on it, and then like you get additional folks there, but like I love the way that he thinks. It's incredible.
I'm glad he's there. Like I'm glad those are the moments when I look at OpenAI and I'm like, okay, like we can definitely like because I believe in them on the model end of things, but believing in them on the security or finance or medical patent side of things, like okay, well, what gives you that validity? But I think the point being with this presentation, he basically introduced this idea that like as they were looking at this with Aardvark, they could essentially set like a steady state of error introduction through the commits. Like it was something I keep quoting this and probably misquoting it, but it was something along the lines of like 1.9% of commits were introducing some kind of error or vulnerability or whatever. And Dave, please correct me if I'm misquoting this, but if you think about it essentially as a steady state of entropy that's being introduced into all these code bases, it means that there's things that are not being maintained are likely less, in some ways, less subject to this kind of runaway state of like the introduction of entropy into the code. And B, unless you have an equivalent counterforce that is actively doing away with that introduction of errors.
CI/CD pipelines.
Well, and
GitHub, like commit actions and whatnot, like, because we all put those in place and check the commits. But I mean, conceivably, there's controls that should enable us to do it, but they're not.
Conceivably, right? And you say CI/CD, and I laugh because I mean, people came up with what a good DevOps pipeline is supposed to look like. How many companies, and I mean Fortune 500 companies, actually have good CI/CD pipelines and the automation in place, and they produce that you put code in here and it comes out the other way in the same sort of repeatable fashion. I think you'd be surprised how few people took it seriously, how few people actually developed it. And now the bill's coming due because you want to get on this AI train, and the AI train builds on top of the automation train. And if you didn't really board that one, you're pretty far behind. So you're seeing all these people talking about AI transformation, and what they mean is, well, first let's tackle that digital transformation we claimed to get on 5 or 10 years ago, and also hopefully make it so that AI can be a part of this.
I still think that companies can adopt even if they don't have those instrumentation points. I don't think it's going to completely inhibit them. But of course, I'm someone who.
You think a legacy company can?
What's legacy?
I'm literally anything older than 5 years old. Literally anybody who has an existing code base, a product that's on the market. I do think this is one of those situations where startups, starting fresh, you're way further ahead than literally any existing company, no matter what resources they have. It's how are you going to fight the culture of, well, this is how we do PM releases. This is how, our product
it's true for security in general, legacy
for everything.
Yeah, it's a lot of things.
Software. Right? All the people who are enjoying their agile sprints and they're oh, yeah, last quarter we decided how we're going to use all the resources of this quarter. You fucking lost. You are so fucking lost.
Well, here, let's back the train up for a second. So Big Sleep, hypothetically, it's a Google system that's capable of finding vulnerabilities in code and then issuing patches or helping get patches in place. In the market, there's XBOW, there's Specular, there's Terra, there's a Ghost to some extent doing application testing kind of.
I'm learning so much.
So XBOW's got the #1 bug bounty, right? And
wait a second, this is all marketing bullshit.
There you go.
This thing is, number one, and suggest that you're competing one-on-one with hackers on there. You're not. They're throwing massive computing power at it. There's a lot of human in the loop there that's triaging. And
but see, that
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
well, it matters when you start counting false positives. Like if you look at false.
There's no false positives.
XBOW does amazing press releases without digging deeper at some of the underlying issues. Like if the false positive rates are that high, even after human intervention or human in the loop. Help me understand how you view what XBOW is doing.
I mean, I view it similar to Big Sleep, is that you're not going to have someone that's going to pay attention to these subtle, like, open source libraries that may not get used as frequently, and therefore it's never going to get attention. So, like, if you can have some sort of
automated... augments on top of everything else that's happening. You just throw and you just throw AI computing.
It doesn't get maintained, but it gets used. Like, I was reading, like, there was like an NPM package that did some little clever hack, and then somebody deleted it, and it, like, took Google down and a whole bunch of other people, because they had all, like, gotten dependent on this particular package that really did nothing other than, like, pad something to the left. It made life a little bit easier. But there's a ton of these, like, little small packages that get deployed that are underlying parts of, like, your supply chain that I don't think that people realize. And I think where, like, XBOW has done a tremendous job of marketing and doing how they're doing it, even if there is a human in the loop for a lot of the stuff that they're doing, they're managing to scale that work to a point where it's at least number one. Like, I don't know, right? Is it fair that they're beating individual people? I don't know, but that's the game.
What the fuck fairness?
Right, but that's what
we're not care about fairness. We're patching bugs.
That's like the Taliban complaining at the unfairness of, like, getting killed by a drone strike. That's not
the thing with.
I'm sorry you don't like it. Like,
the XBOW's bugs, though, like at least some of the ones in my, like, cursory looking at them, they're not particularly. I think the argument that I see is, oh, this isn't a remote code execution. It's not a 0-day. It's not like some net new novel thing. It's a cross-site scripting. It's session stuffing. It's, basic stuff that people go, these aren't material bugs that truly matter. And to me, like, okay, I can understand that argument. But again, compute, machine, some level of automation is handling and improving the hygiene of the overall supply chain, of which we get to take advantage of. I think that's a net positive.
You think AI replaces the pen testing industry?
No, I think it augments and allows them to do more, like, of the creative aspects, right? Like, if I think back to ITEL and, like the Charlie Miller and other people that come from that traditional background, I mean, some of the most innovative stuff that I remember from Immunity days was, like, serializing the stack and post-exploitation cleanup. That was some crazy shit. That was above its time. It was like, hey, we're not going to go crash the application and, like, just leave the user in limbo. We're literally going to, like, serialize state, get the remote code shell back, and then, like, put everything back in order so nobody notices anything. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a level of quality that requires, like, a human, conceivably, to be creative. You're not putting a state machine in the Slack space where there was the NSO group that did that.
Yeah, it was forced entry, right?
I don't remember who the team was, but I mean, like, they wrote, like, a Turing complete.
Yeah, there was some Turing
machine in the exploit space. It was incredible.
Yeah, I remember this. This was a Project Zero documentation of forced entry, I believe. That went crazy about a PDF file. It was
but pen testers are creative, right? And, like, I think generative AI helps them come up with more clever schemes. It allows them to kind of scale more. Like, you want scale. Like, you want the good guys breaking into your stuff, not the bad guys doing it.
I think there's an order of magnitude mismatch that we've gotten used to excusing for ourselves and for our industry in ways that just don't make any, hey, guys, come in, that don't make any fucking sense. So there's a lot of people just hanging out in the, in the entryway. There's a whole order of magnitude issue with autonomy. I'm going to keep returning to this because I think what we have shown is that human expertise, like the best among us, can do some insanely cool shit, but there's only so many of us. We don't have a great talent pipeline. Like, even if you remember back to, like, the Biden national cyber strategy, which a lot of us got to contribute to, and we were very proud of it, but you look at it, you go, all of this bullshit about the talent pipeline and how we're suddenly going to just magically have tens of thousands of competent people just show up sounds a little unlikely. It sounds like, that's not really going to materialize. And if we just accepted that failure state, and we could talk about this whole fucking event that we're in right now is this like monument to our ability to just smile through the pain of a completely
Tell us how you really feel.
Industry. I'm sorry, even when we talk about like, well, what's going to happen to the pen testers? I'm like, I hope pen testers don't exist in 2 years. I hope SOC Tier 1 doesn't exist in 2 years. I want the same. I'm not saying go fire all these people. That's where you're getting a little ahead of yourself, because like these fucking execs are excited to just cut costs. But the point is, we have had human beings having to do a bunch of rote bullshit work because we can't seem to automate we couldn't seem to automate our way even the simplest of evaluations or triage or, analysis. And that means that these people are stuck in this ring of hell, just repeating the same shit forever. So why not have some agentic system that frees those people from tier 1 SOC and moves them up to tier 2, moves them up to tier 3. The point being, it's not like we had the right amount of people to take on the entirety of the work that needed to be done. We had the people we had, and we did the amount of work we could get to. And that's not cybersecurity succeeding or having repeatable things or having metrics or having a sense of like the completeness of the project and how well we're performing. Like, we're just saying like, look, we're doing our fucking best. And we're like, that's fine. Thank you for making it this far. Our best never solved the problem. So if you're telling me that I can now make any one of these people do 10 times as much, okay, cool. How much more of the problem can we approach, and how much better can I make their lives in the process?
See, like, the part of this too is like, I think we often focus on the experts. Like, how can we make the SOC more efficient? How can we make pen testers more efficient? And the reality is, like, we know not to fall victim for these things. It's the average user inside of the company that becomes the ones that actually introduce these problems, right? It's the people who don't know how to write secure code. It's the person that accidentally clicked the link, or they got some signal message telling them to do something like install remote management software, whatever the case might be, right? Like, I want to see like that part. I think that's interesting too. Like when I was at Microsoft and we were starting Security Copilot, that was a big attraction point to running that product. Was AI conceivably has a pretty good set of knowledge that's contained within it. And then that generalized as well. It's not going to be perfect for all security problems. But what got me excited was, can tier 1 get better, or like, can we automate more? Sure, fine. I think there's flaws in like the underlying fabric of how we've gotten to where we are, and I think you agree with that. But like, to me, what was more attractive was like, can I just slightly, by like 5% or 10%, make the average user better? Mm-hmm. Because if I can make them better, then like, I don't have to worry about these things downstream. And like, that to me is still like a big opportunity in our field. Is how do you just stop my mom from, answering the phone from Microsoft saying you got to install these updates and go cash in a gift card?
It's crazy. Why are we solving the same problems? Like, if somebody
some
tells,
of us are.
Well, no, my point here is
not directed at anybody in particular.
My point here is, why are we like, we're stuck in these fucking product categories that have come across from like the way that
if you want to be,
well,
Brandon,
precisely.
like he wants to say something.
No. Yeah, I'm saying, if you have a vision of some sort, maybe something that you
just got to build. Like, you got to find the pain. Like, part about building good products is
the fucking pain.
Yeah, you find the pain. Yeah, like the hard part now is distribution. Like, you got a lot of platform companies that own the distribution channels, and we're seeing like compression where good enough is good enough, and like that's not going to move our industry forward.
Owning the distribution channels being the platforms themselves, like that is the only.
Microsoft is not like they weren't always best at product. What they're best at is distribution.
No, don't worry.
They sell like the E5 bundle.
We're aware that Microsoft's never best at product.
I'm not taking pot shots at them. Like, they have an incredible book of business, and for all the flaws that they have, they do a lot of incredible value, I think, for the industry. Some could argue that it's their fault why we have bugs, whatever. But I don't.
It feels a little unfair, right?
It's a little much. It's not only their fault.
Yeah, I mean,
Ivanti and everyone else.
Palo and CrowdStrike, like we've gotten, like I think you're seeing the industry mature to some degree. You got some giants that are evolving. Innovation can still take place, but a lot of consolidations occur.
It's innovation. If when we say innovation, even in how we're talking about applying this stuff with AI, like when we say innovation, what we mean is like not getting outside of the box. It's just pressing as close to the edge of the box as possible. Like, how can I improve the efficiency of solving the problem that is the problem we created 10 years ago, instead of going, well, why do we have the problem at all? Like, let me ask you something, and maybe this speaks to the excitement in this AI side of things, and also the lack of discernment of the people that are doing the vibe coding. But why the fuck is everybody vibe coding everything from scratch over and over again? What happened to universal libraries? What happened to us saying one person figured out how to do this well? That problem is solved. I'm going to build on top of them. Why does every asshole who wants to start a website need to create everything from zero on up? And I say that because that's the curse of generalized computing. It was amazing that we got to Turing machines and Turing completeness, and you can have a thing that can basically do any program you want to run, you throw at it, it'll do. And we've really stretched like what that means. But like the rejection of the iPad and iOS and whatever as a lockdown, walled garden. Well, Brandon mentioned his mom.
Is there a rejection in it?
Well, I think there.
It's a pain in the ass to develop in.
It's a pain in the ass to develop in, and it's a pain in the ass for power users. But to your point about your mom, like we got my late grandmother an iPad at like 80 some years old, and all of a sudden the woman could watch stuff on YouTube, and and there was no I got a call from Microsoft, right?
It doesn't exist.
But also, why do we need every device to do everything? And I would turn that on its head and say, why does everyone need to develop everything from scratch?
I think there's startups that are trying to tackle that, right? Like Versal is trying to come up with like common components on the front end, composable architectures. I think a lot of what you see out of models from code generation are coming from things like React. So they're arguably...
So that's why they're shit.
I mean, I don't like the JavaScript frameworks,
Nobody
but I'm also like, well, they work. They can be well if you're trained in it. I'm just old school in that way. I move faster in the controlling things more directly, and that's not in JavaScript. But we digress.
It's predictable because it makes sense.
No, there's a whole event sourcing models and front ends that allow you to replay events, and it's like this event-driven architecture, which are incredible, by the way. If you do any development.
It's useful.
It's just if you don't know it, it looks deeply complex and it's a real pain in the ass. But in the models, you have they're pulling from what they've been trained on, right? So arguably
that's the problem. Sorry. Okay. I'm not trying to problematize this. I think the whole vibe coding thing is great.
I think it's awesome.
I'm taking advantage of it. Everyone should be taking advantage of it. I am, however, even think of it from if we got away from individual users and we thought of this as human token throughput. We have companies that are making money on the token consumption. So they just want you to roll it over and over and over 10 million times. My question here is, if we looked at it away from individual consumption to a global consumption, a global token production, we're spending bajillions of token compute building the same things over and over and over. So we're not, if there is such a thing as the stock of human intellectual capital being invested in some way, we're having all of it reinvested in the 90% of it reinvested in the same 10% starter package. And
this was before AI, though. If you write software, you get the same boilerplate every time you need to build a product. Or let's localize it to our space, right? How many times have you built a threat intelligence program?
My man.
How many times? Can we go in and do the same thing, right?
How many people in this room are rebuilding PassiveTotal?
Someone, bring it back. It's
I'll never forgive Microsoft for that.
Yeah, that was, I did everything I could.
Where is PassiveTotal now? Where does it live?
Damn.
Defender Threat Intelligence lives now in Defender XDR, and I think they gave it away. So
to whom? We've yet to find any.
It's Defender customers is I believe it's just included within that subscription now. So if you're E5, it's in. Look, I'm getting a nod here, which is positive. I'm not even
just
directly
that
attached.
E5 license.
Yeah, there was, I give you the inside baseball of how that was all staged, but it was very important for me, when we sold, to try and retain that product because I felt it was important. It served a need. There was a lot of customers that we had.
A lot of unhappy folks that it.
Yeah, I think it happens. And so I think there's a subset of people when your company gets acquired that you think you're just you get to do your same vision all over again with big label. And they fight the machine, and that was not how I viewed it. I'm we sold it, and that was awesome. And now we're in Microsoft, and to be good stewards of Microsoft, we have to bring the value into their customer base. So putting the technology in the back end, porting it over to the services that meet the compliance and enterprise promises to the customer, getting it into some sort of offering that they can access. So they originally wanted to put it in Defender, and I was no, it needs to be its own product line because if you just push it to Defender, it's going to get buried and starved for resources, and it will never meet the level of demand to see continued investment. And so there was a lot of energy spent trying to build Defender Threat Intelligence and get that product to market, which is incredibly difficult at Microsoft because whether you make $1 or $1 billion, they hold you to the same standards of shipping. So most people don't realize that. I got to do all the promises as if I'm making $1 billion. And we launched it, and then the right thing for me to do was to then start partnering with the Defender team formally because immediately there was a subset of customers that said, dude, another portal? Why did you let this happen? And I said, it's a better outcome than what it would have been had I starved the thing. And so then it became, merging with Defender and trying to do the right thing there, and it just takes time. And now it's in Defender, but it's I believe it's free, as I stated. So to me, that's a win, right? It's a win for Microsoft customers. It's not in the same form, and I wish it could have been. I know. Look, it's hard, right? You never know. Could it have been the independent company forever? We could rebuild it and open source it. We could vibe code it.
Is there another path at Microsoft it could have taken that didn't take it out of everyone else's hands?
It's hard. I have as a product manager, I have a duty to meet the obligations that are set. And if they want to drive revenue and they believe that's the right way to do it, I have input on that of what I think the price tolerance is and, do my best to orchestrate deals that I think are fair. But eventually, there's another team that says, QuantQual says price tolerance for doubling. And I go, have you ever put a PO in front of someone? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, this might get rejected. And they're like, well, we're going to do it. And I said, okay, I can't control that.
Right.
But I can work with people to try and help them as they're onboarding or doing whatever. But yeah, it's tough when you sell. You lose that control.
Yeah. And we definitely don't lay that at your feet or the feet of
we
anybody
kind
who
of do.
sells it. No, not at all.
I'm just a boy.
No, I don't lay that at your feet or anybody who developed any of these things. I definitely put it at the hands of sort of the regent that ultimately decides to buy the thing. Because I think PassiveTotal and VirusTotal are very interesting entities in that in their time they became more than just another product. They effectively became the underlying fabric of a lot of the cybersecurity work we were all doing. And
I appreciate you, by the way, co-locating VirusTotal and PassiveTotal together. I don't think that PassiveTotal is to that level of VirusTotal's
I think so.
Value.
No, honestly,
they've done an incredible and phenomenal job.
We did not. I think a lot of people in this space could not recover from losing access to PassiveTotal.
Yeah.
And you had a bunch of, you have a bunch of other companies that supposedly were, selling stuff around that time. And,
Farsight.
Farsight domain tools, and like you had access to some of these other things, but none really made up for PassiveTotal. And I think that's where you get a lot of that frustration with Microsoft, which is a frustration that has taken other shapes, but similarly with Google, where it's like, I'm glad they decided to pick this thing up and understood its value for their cybersecurity ecosystem, but they both kind of misunderstand the importance of these specific enclaves for the rest of the cybersecurity industry. So to me, it's kind of funny, and I think it's going to come off as shitty, but I hang the death or the lack of availability of PassiveTotal around Microsoft's neck as something that I weigh any of their security claims against. As in, like, we are so invested in security, we care so fucking much about security.
Let me
We're
comment
trying
here.
to help everybody
Let me
in
comment
security.
here.
Thoughts and praise for everybody. Thoughts and praise.
Is the SFI a real thing or is it a PR thing?
Bro, don't indict Microsoft through him. Like, it's
Totally a comms person there. No, like that's not
escaped.
not my
Current Microsofties.
But no, for real, like when you might have lost the interface to accessing the information that we had, but the underlying infrastructure lives on with the teams that do all of the scanning of URLs and links that go into the safe browsing initiatives, all of the port scanning stuff, the header collection. All of that is scaled, and that helps go towards investigations that take place on nation states and criminal actors.
Right.
And
it's part of the embarrassment of riches of stuff that people in Mystic have available to them. I'm happy for them.
But that does translate to real world opportunities to disrupt the adversary. And you could argue that's not the case, but I would say that it is. That if our information behind the scenes is able to make a linkage to a threat actor's infrastructure or something that we didn't know about otherwise, and then protect their customers and potentially the internet, then that's a net positive. I think the frustration is the fact that you've lost the interface to directly query that yourself, which I would agree is frustrating. But I would, as somebody who was, when we ported the architecture over, and I know that it lives on, it's part of one of the many things that Microsoft does behind the scenes to fulfill that larger promise of trying to make the internet safer. And I'm not a shill for them, right? But I think big companies get bad raps because they're big companies, but I've seen the inner workings and they do a decent job.
No, I do not doubt that Microsoft is doing great things with the stuff that they've picked up. I'm happy for them, and obviously we stand the work that Mystic does, and they're doing great shit with what they've got, and I'm happy that it continues to live on and feeds the thing. My point here is there's really no reason that it needs to be either or. If you've decided that this isn't a worthwhile revenue stream for you, it isn't a worthwhile whatever, cool. But where is the interest from both Microsoft and Google to go, well, the cybersecurity space is fairly anemic. There's few people trying to do a whole lot of very important work. Yes, we decided to buy VirusTotal, PassiveTotal, Zynamics, and a bunch of other shit and create these unbelievable capabilities only for ourselves. It wouldn't kill us to create a portal of some sort for some of these community people. It wouldn't kill us to have a nominal fee. Yeah, exactly. And that's my point. There was a decision that it wasn't worth the trouble to keep feeding the industry in a way that doesn't blunt your competitive advantage.
There are efforts. I don't want to. I want to make sure I'm not countering every point with the other point, but there are efforts that they've done to try and do that. Collective defense is one of them. The community part of it, in particular, it wasn't a lack of appetite. There was a lot of interest in it. It was the organic nature of products as they grow year after year get more and more complex and more bloated, and making a simple change, I want to add a button and 6 months or something, and I'm
daring.
How is this possible that we get there? That's a burn it to the ground moment. And I'm not saying that was an exact sort of issue, but when you design a system that's around a particular authentication pattern, user roles and all these things, it's very difficult to then introduce an entire new paradigm without substantial changes to the underlying interfaces. And at some point somebody goes, I don't know if this crosses the bar because it's going to be potentially so disruptive to our customers, to everything else. We don't want to introduce vulnerabilities or screw ups. That it's a lot more than just like they're not interested. It's complex, but I think it's worth. I wish we could do more, like what you're saying, right? You're a diehard, a bleeding heart for cyber.
Yeah, well, that's awful.
It's good. We need people like
That's
that, right?
awful
You want
to
people that
consider.
want to do the mission. Otherwise, like, why are we here?
I just don't like the fucking platitudes, and it comes from a genuine place of like obsessive anger. Like I am.
You are angry when I listen to this.
Extremely. So as a compulsive tab browser, you have to open every single tab. Otherwise, I don't know. The idea of these locked away data sets for network telemetry, for Whois stuff, just malware collections across these different companies. The fact that these things are initially treated as proprietary, competitive advantage style intellectual property, which it should not be. It's not theirs. But fine, you were the one to collect. I'll give it to you, and you're paying the fees for storing it. I'll give you that.
It's totally theirs.
Other than the malware, I will disagree. But I agree. Like, you're generating all your network telemetry stuff. It's yours.
Somewhere there's a legal document that a customer has checkmarked and made the calculated decision that they understand it's theirs.
No, I understand that. Let me be more specific, right? Let's focus on malware collections.
Sure.
These are literally components that were developed by malicious actors and dropped into, customer environments. And apart from the narrow set of things where some kind of customer whatever is embedded in a file, in most cases for executables and whatnot, it's a fairly bullshit thing to say, this is the Microsoft malware collection, the Google malware collection, the whomever malware collection, and there's no way that we should be providing this to each other and making this accessible. My obsessive rage comes from, we're at a disadvantage, we're trying to understand this whole thing, we're trying to get ahead of extremely well-resourced adversaries, and then you get this paradoxical, obsessive gatekeeping that comes with saying, this is our intellectual property, this is so valuable we couldn't possibly share between these two companies, until the day they decide, it's not even worth paying for the cloud storage of keeping this malware collection here, is it? And then they delete it. And stuff like that, you go, I'm sorry, what the fuck just happened, right? Like, it's simultaneously so valuable as to be unthinkable to share, and so not necessarily valuable that a PM will eventually come around and just vanish it out of it. You'll go into a Broadcom acquisition and they'll go, why are we paying $30,000 in storage costs for this thing? I'm going to get a fucking promotion the second I just boop, delete. And there's no way to get that data ever again.
So in my experience, though, like sometimes that data becomes customer data. And for Microsoft people that I can physically see, I've probably just triggered you because of like that, hearing like all the privacy stuff that you have to think of.
What's the bullshit they make up around that?
No, it's like there's liabilities that come along with it. For the one out of 100 times or 99 times, you might have customer identifiable information in the subset of files. And if someone cannot thoroughly go through those and guarantee that's not the case, it becomes customer data that is now Microsoft. Like I don't know if it's like I'm rusty, so I don't know if
you're
it would be
rusty on the talking points.
If it would be like if there would be their liability of like doing that, but it's customer data. If the customer wanted to share it, the reason why they wouldn't share it is not its value. It would be the fear of identifiable information, and while it's very infrequent and not likely to occur. Legal will always trump it and say we're simply not going to allow it to happen. So AI could actually help here, right?
Yes,
like, could you do something?
Now you have these, right?
And depend on that to a degree where you could say like AI has kind of looked at the files, it's looked at these things, and it's made some attestation that it's like searched it and it's completely fine, and therefore, you put it into some sort of TLP white or whatever that other people can take advantage. I mean, these are new systems that could be built right now, right?
But I'm glad we have found a technical solution to the bullshit reason that we wouldn't do this. But
do you remember the early days?
No.
Of like just, people get together, try to do the right thing, right? Like that's what you want at a grand scale. I want that too. I think it's just difficult.
I just don't want I'm just sick of...
I'm going to look at Ryan, by the way, because I feel like I'm just
sick of giving people like accolades for showing up and just smiling. And I don't see... I don't see the point.
We got to Gandhi it. You got to be the change you want to see in the world.
Sure. I find it deeply frustrating. But more than anything, I like to remind people that for anybody who's ever been in an executive position, legal departments are an advisory position.
They advise on risk.
Yeah, and what we're seeing is the lack of leadership that comes with there being no one in these publicly traded companies who feels comfortable enough going, thank you so much, lawyers. We appreciate your input. Now get the fuck out of the room because we're not going to stop all of these trains and all of this legitimate benefit that we can get for the potential of a 1 in 100 maybe exposure of a sort of kind of possibly sensitive thing to a maybe kind of upset
Is he
sort of
exaggerating?
customer.
And some of the realities that you guys have to deal with when you're taking these things into consideration.
He doesn't work there.
Yeah,
I know. We finally get somebody to kind of give us a peek behind the curtain of what happened. We spend a lot of time on
Brad
this
Smith
podcast
is gonna come hang out any
Microsoft.
day.
It's good to get someone who's been on the inside and
big companies are complex, right? Like, I mean, it's
By design.
it's obvious. That's not even by design. It's just an organism. Like, it's incredible the scale in which work gets done. I've never worked at a place before that, at the other end of 9 months of product development, you press a button and it's literally global. Like, in every language, in every market, and like anybody can buy it, and like thousands of people know how to sell it, and they know what to say, and they like press a button and it turns on and money just flows. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's awesome to see that scale. But then, like, once you're in that level of scale, you realize, like, holy cow, like, it's not necessarily any individual decision maker that stops a bad idea or a good idea from happening. It's the machinery that's operating at scale. Like, I mean, I would liken it to the government. Like, if you worked in the government, people get drowned out by bureaucracy. They think it's like, it's exhausting. Sometimes the bureaucracy's there for a reason. Sometimes it's way too far. But, like, individuals can make an impact in those larger companies, but it comes at the cost of their ability to stay there because they burn out.
Right.
So I don't know. I just, like, once you're in those machines, like, it's you gain some perspective. That was like one of the attractive bits of, going there was, it was cool to see like how a company of that scale functions, and it's awesome. It comes with a lot of frustrating things for sure, but like, I think it generally does more good for the industry than it does bad. And when I say that, I mean, like, I don't think anybody's waking up going, how can I screw things up and make Juan more angry about security? Like, what is my role in that today at Microsoft? I just, like, or any big company, right? Like, that doesn't happen.
right. But there's a lot of small bullshit that we got to put up with, like even malware naming and harmonizing.
Oh my
properly
God.
across. No,
What's the new names?
I'm not serious. Like, right.
Still Typhoon. They make for good cocktails.
What stops Microsoft from harmonizing properly? Like they're
There's a
little
coalition
tiny
now, right?
things.
Like, that was like after I left. I think that
Yeah.
they did the rubric. Did they bring it together?
I mean,
Is it good, or like I don't know?
they got a few people, and then all those people went on to write blogs that didn't harmonize any of the names. To be fair,
By images.
the Secret Blizzard blog post did
Finally
finally do that. So shout out to
Whoever
whoever
in
at
Mystic,
Mystic did that.
Dolman. Jeremy, probably, like forward-facing,
Yeah. Some amazing human being at Mystic who did this, and whomever it is that allowed it through, out the door. But I can't. We've talked about the naming thing on a bunch.
Let's go back to AI.
Yeah, let's go back. Wait. I want to close the loop on Big Sleep.
Let's finish sitting on Microsoft.
One, you were extremely tough on the whole Big Sleep.
Was he?
I was listening.
Even John Hultquist actually tweeted about your rant against his thing.
I'm talking to John about it.
The question to you is,
Hi.
the details in the issue tracker change your mind at all? Or is this something that you see as groundbreaking? Is there anything there that impresses you?
No, wait. Okay.
There's a lot of questions.
Piece that apart. Let's piece that apart, because the idea that I'm not impressed with this is completely off base.
He just has a standard. Okay.
No, look, I was objecting to something very specific when it came to that first Big Sleep post, which is they told us something groundbreaking was happening.
They had just to backtrack.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I remember.
I'm sorry. Like, I understand that, like, you guys have built this amazing intellect-defying capability. That's enough. You don't need to also,
Is it not plausible that they could have, one, they could have identified the bug independently through this AI system, and then two, had signal about traffic that was going to the repository in the specific code areas.
Absolutely.
To then say looks like someone's paying attention to the thing that we happen to find that could be exploited.
And then you
right?
punted to Project Zero.
But you just wanted the transparency of how did that get there?
We have all done, the people in this room, we have all found ways to slightly obfuscate, but not not misinform how we've got to something.
Isn't this the Intel dilemma?
Sure.
To some extent?
Sure. And I think when you overcompensate for that Intel dilemma the way particularly Google does, that's something that the Google lawyers have found a way to just tie themselves up into knots in ways that are just fascinating. It's
hold on, let's break this one down. I'm not going to be a contrarian, for the sake of doing it. No, I'm trying. I love you. Look, I'm just a guest.
This is fair.
What if, when I look at this and Google's saying we found a bug and we think it's going to get exploited, I think they've already done the thing that they intended to do, which was tell someone that they're going to fix something that they thought was going to be actively exploited. Yeah. It would be a bonus if they could tell us why, for the sake of us being able to then future understand and put trust in them. But I don't necessarily think
we have in them.
But I don't think they owe us the explanation of how they came to that signal. They're a corporation.
Okay. And in that case, I will happily shit all over anything that corporation tries to. If they don't owe us, then I don't owe them. But I'm not saying. But I'm not saying that. I do think that they owe us some explanation, and we owe them the benefit of giving them credit where credit is due. Big Sleep looks fucking awesome. Project Zero was already doing God's work, getting shit fixed, and now you've got this force multiplier that doesn't require you to have these extremely capable but very rare talented people looking at a bunch of things they don't have time to look at, and they're still using it, right? I asked Sam Altman in person if they would, now that they had Aardvark, was he going to just set it loose on the open source community so that we could have this function of trying to improve things for free and essentially do this as a public benefit. And he said he'd consider it. But if you look at Google, they're not considering it. They're fucking doing it. They're doing it. So I am giving them a shit ton of credit. What I want to say is, on the shitty vendor side of things, putting that out, the precog claim in a black hat booth invitation was just tasteless. That's all I'm saying. It was tasteless because I trust John Hultquist and I trust Mandiant. And like I said that episode, I have never looked at something from Mandiant and said, well, this is a fucking lie. Never. Right. They're great, and I trust everything they say. It's just in that kind of sleazy salesmanship, you doubt it in the beginning. The other part of it is in this particular case, you're going into relatively uncharted territory and reporting back on what you've discovered and what you're able to do. That is a particularly touchy and important moment to report some level of transparency. I don't give a shit about the signal. I don't care how they found out that they're precogging it. I just want to know what they've learned about what an AI vulnerability discovery, testing, triage, whatever system, how does it work? Like, how does it work well? Under what parameters is it actually particularly successful?
So this is where, like, XBOW is interesting. And I'm not a shill for any of these companies, by the way.
I mean, you were shitting on XBOW earlier, right? Like,
no, I'm not shitting on it.
Oh, sorry.
I think
I was shitting on it.
like, but
Nico here? Nico was supposed to...
No, that's
Nico is it?
like XBOW put out a set of evaluations and benchmarks that are published on GitHub right now. You can see how the system was tested and how they conceivably how it functions. A set of Docker containers with, simulation kind of capture the flag like exercises rank from like easy, medium, hard. Right. So like they kind of provide you some blueprint.
Thank you, XBOW.
Sure. But like, I mean, again, like, I think most AI solutions that are being formed right now should come with evaluations and benchmarks. Whether or not they need to be public, I think is, to be, it's their decision.
Look, it depends. It all depends on what kind of credit you want. If you want credit as an industry leader in creating the coolest capability that you intend to sell in AI application, I will give you credit as someone who's developed some cool shit I need to buy. If you would like credit as some like Mahatma Gandhi, we're here for the benefit of humanity type bullshit, and you're
That's
just
like Mother Teresa.
Yeah. You're putting all of your cards on the table, and you're sort of like doing all this. You're wasting all this money just to help people and help the open source, whatever. Great, I'll give you credit for that. Don't do one and ask for the other. Those are the only moments when we're like, all right, bro, like that. This isn't the way to play it. Tell us you're fucking awesome because you're Google, and you can literally be like, what's the answer? It was like, well, we run the largest computer on planet Earth.
We process information so differently. I love like the diversity of thinking, like this, hearing how like you interpret like that sort of set of information.
It's like the sweetest,
like, the sweetest thing to interpret it. It's very interesting. Like, I look at it and I go,
a very constructive parent.
Try 3 children. They're crazy.
Jesus Christ, man.
Like it, I don't know. I look at that opaqueness and I'm like, this is an invitation to like figure it out. All right. Like it's,
yeah. And that's how you end up with HackerOne.
You end up with like, like little, this is how startups are born. Like, you try to do those things. Like it's, I'm sure if you go and talk to them in a closed forum, they'll probably reveal a bit more, but right. I know that's not what you want. I think you're coming from a good spot.
Thank you.
I just never look at a company and I go, you owe me something. Like I've never felt that unless I've paid them money. And then even then, like, unfortunately, even when I pay them money, I'm like, I'm probably going to get screwed somehow. Like they're eventually going to brick this device.
Yeah, but if you
stop my thermostat from working.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, but if you're too big.
Why?
If you're too big to fail and you're part of like the public infrastructure, there's certain things that you owe communities, you owe civilization, you owe.
Yeah, do the right thing, right? Like that. I think that should be part of the fabric, but
when it's not that far off, like that's like part of the issue with Microsoft. Frankly, is I think it gets a little deeper, and I can't have an impartial take on this just based on my entire career trajectory. But Microsoft deciding that they're a security vendor has really put us all in a very weird and awkward spot.
Correct.
It just, I don't know how to look at them the way that I would an OS maintainer, an ecosystem maintainer, a multi-ecosystem maintainer, and just be like, hey, you have a responsibility, you're supposed to do this and that, but in turn, like, we help you in this and that way, and this is what you owe us. And like, there's a clearer social contract when it comes to that. It's not that clear when now we go, well, how much of the security shortcomings, failures, bad habits, perverse incentives are a result of the nature of being an ecosystem or a multi-ecosystem maintainer and just trying your best? And how many of these are the typical curse of vertical integration, which is the reason that you have antitrust legislation, or you used to have antitrust legislation, which is to say, like, yeah, if you sell us the cure to the problem that arises from you also owning the other thing, to what extent do you start to create the problem in order to sell us the cure? And it's, again, not saying anything nefarious about Microsoft in particular. I don't think that Microsoft is sitting around thinking about how to screw us, but they're definitely putting a lot more energy into how to make money, which is part of what they're supposed to do.
Over their security revenue,
and they take victory laps around it. And at some point, it is just a more confused social contract when it comes to what does this company owe me and what do I owe them. I mean, they would argue that a lot of us owe them certain things. For example, the vulnerability research side, the argument has been made that these people who dedicate a whole shit ton of time to coming up with these vulnerabilities they could sell for all kinds of money should be doing the right thing and bringing it to $1 trillion corporation and saying, here, sir, please, may you kind of fix this thing that I did for you for free, and maybe you'll cut me like a, $20,000 check.
After you badger me for a month.
After you badger me or maybe tell me that it isn't reported, or tell me that you can't pay me for it, but then it gets fixed on its own, or like all this shit. Where there's these imbalances because of the image you're trying to project as a certain kind of company. And the same thing applies to Google in a strange way, because Google has a conception of itself as that plucky startup, quirky, with all these like Crayola colors and their little bikes and like, oh, how fucking cute we are. It's like, you motherfuckers have been here for 20.
I've never thought of Google this way.
Have you been to campus? It's like a community college that just kind of got a little quirky to try to bring in different kinds of folks. But it still thinks of itself that way. It doesn't think of itself as the hyperscaler, mega dominant, antitrusty company that like essentially perverted ads and search and everybody else's data and killed that reader app everybody liked. And this steadily,
I still miss Vine, but apparently it's coming back. Like I just made a non sequitur over to X. Like, do you remember Vine?
I do.
Vine?
How incredible it was. Am I the only one that remembers Vine? Like
seconds of.
It's like Gen X stuff. Like there was a very particular generation, some sandwich somewhere that did Vine.
Like Twitter had so many good things that they like killed, but like I'm not a huge fan of like X's current situation. But bringing back Vine, like that could be cool. I don't know. It's gonna get weird.
Can you say like I don't know what the fuck we're
talking
talking
bring this shit back into port. Speaking of
America.
Speaking of Microsoft, today we got news from Microsoft.
Yeah, it's like
about Project IRE. IRE, cool, which is an autonomous system being used to classify software without assistance, a step forward in cybersecurity and malware detection. There's a prototype that automates what is considered a gold standard, blah, 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 blah. A lot of PR. The big line in here, it was the first reverse engineer at Microsoft, human or machine, to author a conviction case, a detection strong enough to justify automatic blocking for a specific APT malware sample, which has since been identified and blocked by
what the
Microsoft
fuck does that
Defender.
mean? What the fuck does that mean?
You tell me. There's a blog post here that talks about
why is it happening on like living off the land drivers? Like how is that where you find malware? Like these things confuse me.
So this is just PR again?
No. Again, that you're
Have
building
you seen this?
Yeah.
Did you read this shit? Sorry,
not fully.
You're like, look, this article. No. Let's separate two things here. Let's separate the kind of confusing positioning of the use of the tool from the development of the tool. The development of the tool sounds fucking awesome. This is an area I've been particularly interested in and is actually the thing that got me into AI shilling, which was like trying to use it to teach people malware analysis and realizing like, holy shit, there's actually some value here that you almost certainly could use to take advantage of Well, to bridge that gap, which is one of the worst in our industry of how difficult it is to create reverse engineers and capable malware analysts. Like, that shit is hard. It's still an apprenticeship model in a lot of ways, and it's desperately needed for a whole host of things that we think of as seminal in security, and there's no easy way to kind of get up there. Yep. So I think it's phenomenal, and it doesn't take genius foresight to realize that if you can do it in small bits, there's a way to scale this up that should give you some way to look at a binary blob and go, look, 90% certainty, this thing is trying to do X, Y, and Z, we'll do X, Y, and Z, and this is how to some degree we can infer the intent of this executable. And I'll take it. That's phenomenal. Compared to, like, we couldn't do any of it without some expert here to, well, I can get 80% of it with 60% certainty or 90%. Great. Sounds phenomenal.
It reminds me of what was Kaspersky's thing? That did the putting it into, like, basically the decompiled, like, language that you then looked for similar functions.
Yeah, attribution engine, attribution engine.
Yeah, like that. This reminds me of that with agentics on top of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like they reference GraphRag in there, and so GraphRag is because an alternative way of representing, like, data structures for AI to take advantage. It's, as it sounds, it's a graph. You perform RAG on top of it. It's not just a vector store.
I mean, it's a really interesting problem. It also is, I think, again, I will object to the positioning of it because they're taking a science project, which I think is a fascinating science project, and they're basically saying, we've developed this thing and it's now in everything and we solve this problem and everyone can go home. And you go, I'm sorry, it's every bit of executable code, every file is getting processed through a decompiler and some kind of, like, graphing database and running through LLMs and being map reduced into some kind of analysis. And I don't know how long that's going to take or how much it's going to cost, but I don't think you have productized this in a way that's befitting the announcement, as opposed to just coming to us with a science finding and saying, guys, this is possible. It's expensive, it's not efficient, it cannot run locally, it's going to need X, Y, and Z, but it's possible. Like, we got there, now let's figure out how to make it cheap, let's figure out how to make it accessible, let's figure out how to make it half localized, let's figure out what part of, like, the common library of applications we could just analyze one time and then make available to everybody else, right? Like the DLLs and all this shit that's repeatable. But that's not what we're being sold. We're basically being told, this is being put as part of, like, a product marketing pitch, basically saying, everybody go home. We now have the AI agentic decompiler, reverser, ultra tool in Defender. So it's all good. Don't buy anybody else's product.
Wasn't there was, like, a paper with it, right? Like a research paper?
There's a research paper.
Yeah, there's a research paper that came with it. And then, like, they kind of push it partially in the Defender. I'm sure it has, like, a preview tag or something.
It also doesn't. Sorry, I need to go through the research paper. I
mean, like, the
plan is, based on the early success project, our prototype will be leveraged into the Defender organization as binary analyzer.
Yeah. So they're just framing where they believe it's going to go. It may not go for everything, but like, it might be a subset. But
no way it'll go for everything. Like that.
They scale a lot.
Well, that's
stuff. So I mean, like, and your reverse engineering comes in multiple flavors, right? There's static analysis, there's dynamic analysis, like. There's, the decompilation in Geardra and, like, other areas and grooming those. I don't know if it's going to handle every foreseeable piece of it. They might take certain high fidelity malware, run it through the instrumentation, put it in GraphRag, call it a day.
No.
Like, so it's, I don't know. I get excited by the technology side of this. I like, these big companies are spending a lot of money to work and drive up these projects. Like, I mean, that was part of what I did before I left, was like, which projects are very interesting, what do we think could pay off, and potentially make its way to our product. But, like, it was cool because, if they allow you to write a research paper, then other people now know that this sort of thing is possible. I've seen a couple folks using like Deirdre and creating videos where they have like an MCP server hooked up to it. So I think that's gaining popularity, but hopefully the reach of something like this gets people who are like yourself, who are animated and they want to see change, to then go like, man, I'm going to go write my own thing.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily have to rely on a big corporation to do it. And like, I don't think a lot of people.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are just sitting around on a lot of like idle GPUs that the corporation doesn't own and are going to be able.
You're sleeping on the open models.
Open models are not like being able to
architectures are changing. They'll run local. You should run them on your laptop.
No, I do that. I do it already. I'm just saying what it takes to take one binary, run it through Ghidra, have representations in assembly and C, and then
you're
run
a much smaller scale.
All of that shit through an LLM.
I'll give it to you.
And that's to the point of the whole corporation thing. Again, I don't hate corporations, and I'm glad there's people that can scale shit. We need that. There are things that I think we should consider kind of like part of the common space that we should be contributing to openly and benefiting from evenly.
Like Google Safe Browsing, there should be like or like the Safe Browsing Initiative, there should be like a known malware initiative, right? Like that. Does that even exist? Someone should push for that.
I mean,
because I think everybody collaborates on like VirusTotal is the closest thing you got to it, right? But then like
the money,
and they've killed the community component.
Did they?
Yeah. Well, they're a big company monetizing, right?
Dang, I didn't know they killed the community.
And they haven't killed it. This is our.
Well, I think,
killed the
I think part of the problem with how VT doesn't understand how its users use its product. So you get answers like, there is a community one. You can just email us or like pay us X amount of money and you're going to get 5,000 queries a month or whatever. You're like, I'm sorry, VT doesn't give you full answers. 5,000 queries are useless for the kind of work that I need to be doing. So like it is a sort of like an offering that's pretty much not an offering at all for what you need it to be.
All right, we're an hour in and we got 50 people locked in a hot room here. So I just want to touch on one last story before we get going. Is NVIDIA actually issuing a blog post today to make it clear that there are no kill switches or no backdoors in their GPUs. Do not and should not have kill switches and backdoors.
That they know of. I think it's like
right, but it's interesting. This came up because U.S. officials started floating this idea that our rules should require advanced chips sold abroad to carry this either location tracking or remote disabled circuitry. The idea is this is the China versus U.S. battle at a very, very high level. The idea is we need to have a way to track if there's circumvention of chips going through UAE to China, or for instance, and they've been changing the rules on this new H2O chip. This is an age-old conversation in our industry around backdoors and the use of the utility of backdoors or kill switches or what. You have a thought at a high level how this plays out? Or is this just geopolitical negotiating I
don't know. I don't have too much opinions on this one. Things keep changing back and forth, right? Like, are they allowed to get the chips? Are they not? Like, what's the class of things that they can do? It's kind of went back and forth. So
we have an AI cybersecurity executive, an AI executive order that basically talks about just kind of wrapping up US-based technologies for you.
Yeah, the proliferation,
right,
the non-proliferation
strategy.
Yes.
This feels, this kind of putting kill switches, it feels very much like we're going away from that.
Is this even real?
Yeah,
what the fuck kind of kill switches are we even talking? Like, to me, when I first
the Chinese came out and said that this was how this entire thing started. After there was talk of these rules.
Yeah, but the first time I heard about this, my assumption was, who in China just figured out how to make dope GPUs, and they're trying to be like, it's time to buy Chinese.
Trademark.
Yeah, they're like, it's time to buy Chinese-made H1000s. Fuck NVIDIA. They're not, like, they have backdoors in them, right? Like, to me, this was a question of somebody, like, we see this happening in China every once in a while. And I wish Dakota was here to keep me honest. But where you'll, once like a national champion or local alternative is ready to go, all of a sudden you start to see this like anti-American, anti-foreign discussions around these components. Before, it wasn't a big deal. When we're learning how to make them and we want the business to come to China, the minute somebody's ready to go to sell you their own version of, an H1000, it's a Y1000, then all of a sudden, the foreignness is a problem. And that was my assumption. And if that's the case, we have a whole different conversation to have about, like, your stupid play about, like, we're just going to keep the hardware away from you, which was not really all that doable, doesn't account for the fact that you can essentially just rent these shits on the internet from somebody else and run workloads. Like, nobody's stopping someone from, like, going to, DigitalOcean's, like, GPU farm subsidiary.
Or Weave.
Yeah. Every company, man, it's beautiful.
I've been doing this for 2.5 years. Like, I like the stock. I like the AI stock. I think China's clearly benefited from some level of constraints with the frontier labs and the open source models that they put out. DeepSeek, R1, Kimi K2, the Quen team. Like, when you look at some of the design decisions at an architecture level that they've made, it was to optimize to specific hardware that they had.
Right.
And somewhat, like, I know that there was like this argument of like, they really actually had more than what they were supposed to, and they got them like secretly shipped from somewhere. I don't know, right? Like, I can't attest to that, but I can attest to the architectural decisions that they made in how the specific GPUs they were using to allow them to communicate with each other were optimized for a different set of GPUs, and that constraint allowed them to come up with a more creative way to solve that problem. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I think it's been a net positive for the industry, because up until that DeepSeek moment, you didn't have chain of thought reasoning that was being published.
Right.
And what people don't realize with chain of thought is it's basically the traces behind the scenes of how the AI is coming to its conclusion. And when you're doing reinforcement learning, you're looking at reinforcement learning training on the chain of thought, the traces themselves. So they become important. And the reason why you didn't see them is because if people have access to them, they can basically train on that, and they could start taking smaller models and, training them on those traces to make them more powerful and capable, to then you don't need to necessarily use the frontier models. So DeepSeek came by and they're like, YOLO, like, we're going to put this out, and it comes with the traces, and like, we distilled off a big model. Like,
there was panic. There was panic here. We did an entire emergency episode on DeepSeek.
Dude, I was like, man, this is like, as somebody who likes the technology, and I was like, gets out of the geopolitical stuff at times, I'm like, this is awesome. Right. And then, like, you had like the Quen team that came out. Like, they've just been doing a lot of interesting stuff. Like, the open source side of it is doing a tremendous amount of work that people don't pay attention to because they get so caught up in the benchmarks of the frontier models. But multi-group attention, KB cache optimizations, GRPO, like as a policy method, like the Chinese did that. You got smaller groups that are doing like quantizing of models, so they're taking them from big form factors and they're distilling from the large model into smaller models so that you can run them locally. They're quantizing, so you don't have like 32-bit precision. You got like 8 4-bit quants that you can then run on your phone and like not have substantial accuracy hits. Like, the stuff that we thought was state-of-the-art last year is literally free, and it will run on your damn phone. Like, nobody realizes that unless you're paying attention. And part of that is because that the open source community is doing, and the Chinese frontier labs have just been crushing in that regard, to the point where now OpenAI has their open source model that came out yesterday.
Correct. I wanted to pivot to that quickly. They're releasing this GPT-OSS 120B and GPT-OSS 20B. 2 state-of-the-art open-weight models that deliver strong performance at low cost, available on the flexible Apache 2.0 license. Awesome. The 120B model near parity with OpenAI 04 Mini.
It's a dense model.
Right. And then the 20B model delivered similar results to OpenAI 03 Mini, which we use to create our show notes here.
We use 03. Okay. We're not cheaping
What's
out.
the significance of this, Juanito?
I actually think, to Brandon's point, that this was OpenAI having their hand forced by the whole what
And
started...
Meta is hiring everyone for $150 billion.
Yeah, but I mean, what started, and yeah, if you're in that situation, hit up Sid Traverty and have our boy help you negotiate your contract. You know, the NFL AI draft league over here. No, I think to some degree, this is a very interesting play in that it's what R1 started, in that there is this expectation of you should be contributing to OSS, which really OpenAI had no reason to do, at least in the situation that they were in. And I wonder, to Brandon's point, how long it would have been before we'd get any kind of reasoning model open source to anybody when they thought that was like the state-of-the-art stuff that had just come out. I love seeing it. I'm happy to see it. I'm glad that it's out. I haven't gotten to test it. I downloaded it right before coming, but I haven't gotten to use it. It's honestly more of a triumph for the French. Like there is France is trying to become sort of like the hyperscaler for Europe that will, you know, you have things like Mistral and like all these initiatives that say, you know, we don't really need to be the ones creating the models. We just need to be the ones kind of hosting European-friendly AI. And there's
but they're making models.
Yeah, no, I mean, they absolutely are. But I think part of that essentially is to say that there are, like, the Europeans are going to be they seem to be so far the driving force behind this expectation of contribution to OSS, to open source. I don't know that otherwise you get the same kind of legitimizing of the need to contribute. Like, yeah, Meta's been open sourcing their shit, well, at first unwillingly, but like leaning into it for years now. And nobody was looking at OpenAI going, well, Meta did it. Why haven't you open sourced your extremely expensive, difficult to come by proprietary IP? But now that is a thing where like we're actually looking at these things expecting them to do it.
Like Google had stuff out there. Meta had stuff out there. Mixtral had stuff.
Yeah.
And then like Hugging Face has thousands of models, right? Like that people are hosting. So, you know, I think it's a net positive. I don't know who's going to be running the 120 billion parameter dense model. Like that feels like an odd flex, similar to Llama, like trying to put out some of their behemoth model and the ones that scale up higher. It's not going to run on certain hardware. But the more exciting one is the 20 billion mixture of experts model that can conceivably run on not like prosumer is what I'll call it. Like it's going to take 16 gigs of memory. Yeah, it's reasonable. But like, I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at the benchmarks, but like when I saw their benchmarks, they were benchmarking against their own capability. They weren't benchmarking against Kimi K2 and like. That's
what happens when you're the leader, bro. You just measure yourself agast yourself.
Yeah, but like
Usain Bolt is just like breaking his own record, bro. Like,
well, like it would be interesting to see someone surely has like broken that down, but you know, it's yet another option that's available conceivably for free that's open, right? Like, they're a commercial entity. It's their choice. Like, but I think like if anything, they're a little late to the game because there's been so much cool stuff that's come out since February. And it's been like fun to follow how it goes. But again, from a more neutral perspective, everybody benefits, right? Like,
I'm glad it's out. Like,
there's
zero criticism. There is zero criticism. Like, I'm glad it's out. I hope it works well. I haven't gotten to play with it. I want to see more like good reasoning models. I'm also really curious to see. Like, I'm assuming the traces are there because, like, OpenAI has been particularly obscurantist about what's going on in sort of their chain of thought models for a while, where you didn't get the exact bits of like what exactly is the model sort of doing.
Yeah, I think they changed. If I recall, they changed that when DeepSeek came out. They then started doing more of the public chain of thought, and I think Google was doing the same. Oh. And the net benefit there is like then. You know, there's a subset of people that then use like Open Router to take their problem and go to all of the models, right? Like Claude, Gemini, everything. And then they synthesize the super answer. And in that regard, like if they have the chain of thought in the APIs, which I don't know if they necessarily do it, but that becomes an additional source of telemetry that can be very useful. So like when you're mining for answers and you get them back and then you get a super answer, net positive. if you're training models and all of a sudden you have chain of thought from a variety of different sources, now you have different ways in which like they reason through the problems. And like those become like, if you could take traces from all of them and then use that in your training data, you get a much more diverse like super model. So like that's all net positive, like seeing this stuff come out from my perspective. And the second it comes out, it's like fun just to see how's it doing, like the little local benchmarks I have, like how fast is it? What's the time to first token? You know, how much does it melt my little baby GPU on my MacBook? But yeah, it's cool.
If I walk around the Black Hat show floor here, everyone is doing a flavor of AI of something. Either an existing product has some chat or some interface bolted on and calling it AI. From your perspective, Brandon, you've seen and heard everything. What excites you the most? What is the most impressive bit of innovation you're seeing around cybersecurity, AI solving cybersecurity problems? Is there like an area where you see agentic going that makes the most sense? What is exciting you?
I mean, I think what's the statement, the general statement that I would make, and this is like a plug for the tech operators who did like the market map. Like I have my own little market map. I was trying to track these companies early on last year when it was like emerging spaces. The tech operators, like it was a venture capitalist group, they do investments, but they offered a way for people to like volunteer, like companies that they had in AI and self-select a category. So they have a landscape. There's probably about 160 or so companies that are on there. And the categories, you know, that I think are interesting are the AI for SOC. Like as much as I want the SOC to, you know, potentially go away in the long run, like I don't think it's the ultimate form that we need to be in. Mm-hmm. I am excited by the opportunity that AI can bring to those particular problems. I get excited by the code vulnerability fixing and like the being able to push into the CI/CD pipeline, to get more into the IDE to like conjure up secure code development from the start, so you're not vibe coding garbage. That's an interesting space. I like the offensive security space because there was a point in time where doing pen testing was sought after as like the ultimate job of like, how can I do that? And then it got regulated to a checkbox, and then it got turned into a services thing, and then like no one did creative stuff anymore unless it was like Bishop Fox or a couple other boutique providers. And so like the old school folks like still existed, but it just wasn't as accessible. So if AI can help, you know, bring those capabilities back and otherwise drop the cost of doing more boutique pen testing, I really think that's exciting. But like I look at all of those companies on the list, and I think there's a lot of people that say, oh man, these are going to fail or they're bullshit and they shouldn't exist. All right, fine. But someone's staking their reputation and someone's capital, and that cost of capital might be cheap, but it's still, you don't build a company for free. It takes effort. And like you can argue, you know, some people are horrible at it. Some people are great at it. Some people should never do it. But like, I like it because those are people that, you know, are trying to be innovative in some form. They're channeling the inner rage that they have that like, I think I can solve this problem better. So it's a non-answer, but I would say like all of those, it's like 100, 120 companies. Go look at them all. I thought that 7AI was cool. Because they were going after like a really big kind of approach. It was former Cyber Reason guys, so they got a track record. I liked Drop Zone and what Edward's doing because it was all extra hot people. So they kind of like came outside, an outside perspective. I liked what Pixie was doing in terms of going into like the code vulnerability analysis. I like XBOW for the offensive security side. Like I'm not in any of these like companies in any way, but like I think those sort of stand out in the particular spaces that I think are interesting. But they're all cool. Some are going to win, some are going to lose, and we can learn a lot from them.
We got a few minutes for some questions from the audience. If anybody's got anything to throw at Brandon or Juanito, feel free to throw it out. If not, Juanito, I'll ask you to close the show with some shout-outs. By the way, shout-out to Costin Ryu, who we're missing a lot here. I mean, Costin is a big part of this podcast. He's probably sleeping in Bucharest right now. He was begging us to...
He's not vacationing somewhere?
He was yelling at me to live stream it so he can wake up at 4 o'clock to listen to it. So that's how hardcore he in. Close the show with some shout-outs. In the meantime, if anybody has a question...
Yeah, guys, come on.
Yeah, buddy. I think they're going to
repeat the question for the mic.
What are your thoughts on AI, evolving from neural nets and like deep learning era of like 2019 to generative AI models coming out to more advancements where you put neurosymbolic infrastructure into those large language model systems? Like, what does the future look like? Is it? I mean, like, there's a couple writings around neurosymbolic systems. So, like, the ability to have like code interpreters as tools, to have like ways of emphatically checking something like from a description language perspective. I think those are going to it's already happening, right? Like it's very obvious that like this is already occurring where you're starting to get exploration. I like Google DeepMind and their perspective because they hedge a lot. They have diffusion models. They have generative models. They have like AlphaEvolve. They have AlphaGo. They're trying to bring in like Monte Carlo tree search and like bring those things in to intelligently enumerate search space to make it such that generative systems can help in that way. So I think we're already here, which is why you probably see headlines around, is scaling enough? Have we hit the limit? And like that, the counter there is like, anytime I see like, are we done? Like, no, we're not done. It's like 2.5 years and we've barely scratched the surface of what's been put out there. So like neurosymbolic architectures are, I think, going to merge with language models. I'm not an AI expert. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. No,
really?
I just like it. So, but like, there's a lot of people that know more about it than I do, but that is going to be the pathway, because you can't just have complete non-deterministic systems like running wild, right? So it's
what you guys said earlier. I mean, it felt a little unfair on XBOW to be like, well, look at the amount of false positives. It's like, it's a stochastic system. I did not say that. It's a stochastic system, right? Like to Sean Heelan's point about using O3 to find 0 days, you're like, well, 7 out of 100 runs finds a vuln. It's like, I'll fucking take it. I'll absolutely take it.
Well, inference costs
right?
will come down. It's going to get cheaper, right? Yeah. Like you could use these open models. Like there's other ways of doing it. Like people are sleeping on the fact that you don't need bigger, better models. You don't need a bunch of hardware. Like for now you do. But like where you're seeing innovation take place is in the architectural changes of the models. So optimizations to KV cache, mixture of experts, multi-group detention. These are things that are not GPU hardware specific. They are changes to the architecture that allow inference to be done in different ways. And you're seeing alternative models to transformers come out too. Like Mamba is a different architecture that has, I'm not going to get into it, but there's a lot of that. And that's what makes it so exciting. Like people in the press focus on generative. They're like stuck to that message. But there's still so much other cool stuff that's happening that's really worth exploring. And there's not enough people exploring it, which is why these salaries are crazy right now. You just got to be curious. You don't got to be a genius. You just got to like turn like 3 levers and that someone else didn't turn.
It's a great way to end it. Wanted to close the show with some shout outs quickly.
I mean, first of all, shout out to all the folks that showed up here. Thank you so much. Folks have been here in a hot room just hanging out with us. Thank you to Binarly, of course, for putting this shindig together, Alex Mathersov and team. And of course, Brandon, thank you for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Stasis.
I thought Microsoft would have PR trained him, and it would have been difficult.
No, I told you they wouldn't crush his spirit. I don't think they
I didn't say anything bad. Like, I mean,
spent 2 years, bro.
Yeah.
Stock is crazy right now. I was like 570 the other day. The earnings, dude. The earnings is incredible.
It's just cloud capital built
it
on
is,
itself. But in that sense, shout out to all the folks who are taking the risk to start some of these new shops. It is actually really exciting. I think there was a cooling of the industry for a bit where we were all kind of disappointed and just upset not seeing, like you were seeing layoffs and all this stuff, but you wouldn't necessarily see companies pop up to meet certain needs. And it's cool to see that kind of changing. And I think it takes a lot of gall and belief to go into such an uncertain space and decide to take some money and try to make some shit happen when you don't know how the tech's going to evolve. You don't know how the costs are going to evolve. You don't know even know what the market categories will look like after all this. And you have these like mega behemoths that can just sneeze and like destroy you. I think it takes, amazing mettle to do that. So especially to the folks in cybersecurity who are leaving cushy jobs or not trying to like get back into the mega giants and are instead trying something new. That's fucking phenomenal. We need to bring, like, AI is a huge thing people need to figure out what to do with, but we also need to figure out how to make it useful per industry, and cybersecurity in particular is in a place of dire need for this level of like order of magnitude improvement and autonomy. So I hope, those folks do well. You look at folks like XBOW and Dreadnought and a lot of our friends that are just like just going into the dark, sort of trying to figure this stuff out. I wish them all the best.
Very nice words. Again, just to underline what you said, thanks. My thanks on behalf of the Three Body Problem to Alex Matrosov and Binarly for helping us put this together. It's been incredible. My thanks to all the friends and happy faces, friends and family here who came out to hang out. Appreciate you guys. And with that, catch you next week.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.